Here we go, right into a story. Yeah, when I was young, I was with like a group of guys. We were just all partying, and so was Slash and his little group over there. At the end, I went to sign out for my credit card, which is probably a pretty big bar tab, and we got the cards mixed up, and it was Saul, Slash. When I get home, I'm like looking at the card, I'm like, oh shit, this isn't my card. I get a call from my mom, and my mom's like, Gino from Cheetahs is calling you. You took Slash's credit card, and you've been charging it up? And I was like, wait, what? Yada, yada, yada. I call Cheetahs. They're like, Slash is sending a limo to Keenan's house to pick up the credit card. And I'm like, wait, this is so crazy, like sending a limo? Oh, and I get on the phone with Slash, and he's like, you've been charging up like hotels in Champaign. And I go, bro, not for nothing, it sounds like you. We were about to go out that night, and we were really excited, and we were like waiting for this limo, because Slash is gonna show up in a limo, like, so we're all waiting around, and he never showed up. You know, they bring me in the back, and it's like, he's like, Mariano, so you're Italian, right? Let's have a talk about Slash's card, you've been charging it up. And I go through the whole thing, I'm like, bro, Champagne, hotels on Sunset, like, this is him, it's not me. I called you, I'm like, I tried to return the card, like you said you were sending a limo, all this stuff. Oh yeah, on the table is a wrapped up bricks of money, saran wrap. And there's two like kind of bodyguards, like security, as he's asking me about this stolen credit card, and I'm like scared to death. I'm alone. And a long story short, they basically are like, yeah, like that sounds like Slash, and he was in there, and it's been a misunderstanding, worked itself out. This looks like what to be an original relic of the blind video days. VHS tape.
Do you still have one?
I do not. You know, can I tell you something that I'm guilty of? I do not collect stuff. And not because that I've never collected it. I've got it and collected it, but I've seemed to give it all away or something, some way. Someone's like, this is awesome. And I'm like, here, take it. I wish I did have this. You know what's cool about this video is that a lot of kids that I meet, my last Dickie signing, was that Geometric? Which one do we do? It was Geometric signing. Like a lot of kids were like mentioning this video and being like one of their favorites, and they watched it. And I'm like, how do you guys watch it? You don't have VCRs, but everything's on YouTube. Could be getting more views today than it ever got before. What year did this come out?
That's 91.
Do we know how many this sold?
No, I've asked and nobody really knows.
Sold 200 copies, which is equivalent to 300,000 streams today. I do.
Yes.
Where is it at?
At the 360.
I have another one. It's in a Sonic Youth video. Yeah, and I catch it with my back foot. The reason being, you'll never see a regular 360 flip.
That's what I'm asking. You had one of your fully flared intro.
That was an alright one. Like, it was still
an
like,
intro thing.
yeah,
Doesn't really count.
doesn't really count.
And then your Venice part for the guy.
My regular 360 flip is not as good as my Switch one. I keep it under a veil. Is it really Switch if you can't do it regular? I teeter on that one, like, you know, because now you could just grow up skating. Do I still have to hold this in my hand?
You don't have to hold it like that. You can.
You know, a person like, you know, I know this is the guy interview, but like Paul Rodriguez, someone who's very ambidextrous, like, you know, and having it both ways, I think that that is like whatever. And so even though I do love my Switch tray, the weakness on my regular one, like, you know, I don't know. Could it be a generational thing of like 360 flips? No, because I came up with Jason Lee, who had a great one. Like, you know, it shouldn't be a thing. Even though I've had a lot of good friends that have had good tray flips around me, it's never really rubbed off. And I've tried, like, I've literally, it's the thing where I've like been like, I've watched like Stefan Janowski's like trick tips and things in pockets, and I've heard people tell me where the pocket is, put your foot here. It's just never really worked out. Spike did film a lot of this footage. This was still at a time too when I think that like a lot of us were getting our first video cameras, and people were lending us video cameras and we were filming ourselves. There was a lot of stuff that was filmed by Rudy or Jason Lee, and it's just very organic. Spike was coming to shoot my first blind ad, and we went to a school in Burbank, and I think it was St. Francis or St. Finbar, and I shot the backside nose grind, and the backside nose grind 180. I don't know what was in the ad. I think they just used the straight, but it was the backside nose grind and the backside nose grind 180. And then after we went to like Olive Garden, I remember just being like really like, we went out to a fancy restaurant. Oh, you could eat breadsticks. I didn't know exactly who Spike was at the time, and I was explained to like his BMX history and like whatever. But that ad that I got, like looking back at it now, It was the first time I shot with spike, and it was just a really great spike shot up close. There's so many types of photography and film that I've tried to do now, which looking back, it all comes from spike. And I didn't know at that time what a great eye he had. It was the middle frame or towards the end of the frame. It's really close up on the back wheel and just whatever, and it just like really caught me, and love that ad. That was my first experience. You know what I always liked about Spike Jonze? His facial hair. He had a great goatee when he was young. It was like Shaggy. That's what I thought about when I first met him. I was like, damn, this dude looks like Shaggy. I like to try my stories 365 times, just like my tricks. Mark Gonzalez's. While making this video, I think it was an interesting time in skateboarding at World Industries. They were just bringing in like a lot of young kids, and everybody was super young. They were 13, they were 14, and they were trying to push out what I believe is these pros that were like in their prime, Jeremy Klein, not push them out, but just focus on these young kids. And Mark was kind of categorized in that, and I don't think anybody knew that Mark was doing his best skating during this video. I felt that I was really privileged to have like known this and been watching this skating, which people probably thought Mark was old at this time. And little did they know he was about to put out the best part of his life. There's been a lot of great Mark Gonzalez parts, but I would say this is like one of his best. There's a lot of like cool clips that I like that are just different for different reasons, but I like his Paris footage in this. And I like this striped shirt in that one. The board slide on the Double King, just because at the time, like, it was one of these things where Mark had a crazy idea and was like, I want to board slide this rail. And we're like, you know, this guy's like, he's tripping. And he did it. You know, it was groundbreaking. Some of my favorite video clips of Mark Gonzalez, they're on a square bar in the El Segundo parking lot. It was where this red curb was. And he did the 180 to switch feeble, 270 lip. Did like 3 tricks in there that for the longest time, no one had really done those tricks. I think Chris Cole, like the 180 switch feeble, like, you know, it wasn't until Chris Cole started kind of doing that trick in like spots. No one was touching that stuff. Those tricks were really special. I think they were like some of the last tricks too that he had filmed. You know, there was like a couple clips in there, and these just like remind me of Mark. It's when he does that rail slide on that kinky rail and does the trick down the white bench. It reminds me of like when I first met Mark. Like, he used to take us skating. He'd pick us up at midnight and sometimes skate till like 5 o'clock in the morning till the sun was coming out. When I see that night footage, it really reminds me of those special times of like skating all night like through with him and just being like blown away and just like so inspired at a time in my life where like I just love skateboarding so much, and to witness Mark Gonzalez creating some of like these tricks. I mean, I have an interesting story.
Okay, I like interesting stories.
When we were young, like in skating with Mark, we'd go on these night sessions. They were very progressional and just like very like special. One time Rudy was like, hey, we're gonna come pick you up at midnight and go skate. And they didn't pick me up, and I stayed up. I was already older. Probably stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I literally cried because I missed out on one of these sessions. That's how important, I don't know how to explain it. I was so scared, like at just one session, what I could be missing out with like Mark Gonzalez. Skateboarding will change in that one night. That's how special they were. And this is just from someone saying, hey, I want to learn nose slides. Taking a nose slide or a front side nose slide like 10 feet when people were bonking them. Or like nose blunt slides, or just dark slides, or anything for that matter. Yes, it was. It was.
Were you drinking water or was it booze?
No, they had some booze in there. They had some mixed with like water, but like dudes were like really drinking.
Were you drinking when you were driving?
I wasn't drinking. I think I probably had the water when I was driving. They were probably like, but they did have some open booze and people were drinking. Very exciting. All of that stuff was freestyled, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you have to understand, it's like those things, like it wasn't a production shot. People just literally, we drove down to Mexico. Mark and Spike knew of a place to drive a car off a cliff and freestyled that. It's a lot different looking back at it now, what those experiences were and what we did, and thinking about it now.
You think the car's still there?
It's gotta be. I wonder if it is. There's probably a bunch of them down there. I think there's a bunch of cars.
No VIN number.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I want to find that. I wonder if they know that location. That would be sick. Like, dig it up. Like, it's probably buried. Like, who knows? This is Blind Skateboards. Tim and Henry Pack of Lies. I can tell you this. When I was young, Henry Sanchez moved into my mom's house. He was probably the greatest skateboarder that ever lived. At one point for sure. He was just progressing like crazy. I think Switch had just came out, like kind of Mark had just brought it to like light a little bit. Mark had been doing it for years. Henry for me was someone that, he was just a skateaholic, and I watched that guy in front of my mom's house learn every trick, regular and switch. My first Switch 360 flip was probably in front of my mom's house. It was off a little bump. So people used to know about this bump. It was a crack on my mom's sidewalk that basically they called it the bump. I'd have to explain this, like whatever, because like at this point I have 13 skaters living at my mom's house. Yeah, the bump. Like, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's a famous bump. It's a world spot. I'm trying to think if it was Rodney Mullen or not. I actually can't tell you the first Switch 360 flip because like I would be like kind of like lying on it. So there was a time during Blind where I used to skate with Rodney Mullen and Henry Sanchez. And so there was a difference. Rodney was doing like a lot of stuff and making it, but Henry was doing it more on the street board and going like 100 miles an hour. You know, at one point, I want to say like that Henry and Rodney were almost going neck to neck for a second. They were definitely feeding off each other. Rodney was definitely more technical, but Sanch like had some speed and some street in there. Sorry, I'm not like just getting random, but like I'm just like having a flashback of like Henry Sanchez pushing as fast as he can, doing fakey lasers on like world tours, and Rodney Mullen being like tripped out by it. We all really fed off of Henry Sanchez, and so a lot of stuff came first from Henry. Not that we all weren't who we were. Here's an interesting Henry story. One time when pressure flips were coming out, so Mike Carroll calls like my house, and Henry's on the phone with them. And he's like, we're doing backside shove it heel flips. And Henry hears that, but he doesn't know what a pressure flip is. So he goes out in front of my house and learns inward heel flips and hard flips. We all meet up at a Venice contest, and then they go, okay, let's see these tricks. And Mike goes, here's mine. And he does a pressure flip. So clean, so light. And we're like, what the hell was that? And Henry's like, here's mine. Blah, just like, and here's the front side one. So he was doing hard flips and inward heels because someone told him about pressure flips. Whatever. This ain't about Henry Sanchez.
No, it is.
This ain't about Henry. God damn. I will say Henry probably like inspired the switch tray, and like, you know, I probably like whatever, like saw him do it and was inspired. Should I just take it? It was me.
Everyone said, I've asked a lot.
Oh yeah, actually I forgot about that one. Off the stairs. Come on. Give me that one. I think I found the pocket on the switch tray, but not on the regs. Found the pocket, bro. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, the only thing I could say about that is, like, yeah, I definitely probably, like, inspired in front of my house on the bump. That switch tray came from that thing. There was 2 curb cuts and a bump, but Rudy Johnson invented, like, you know, he was the first one that was switch flipping really good and switch frontside flipping. Like, he had those really good before anybody. And it's not to say that it was always the first one done, but it was the first proper ones done. You know, Rudy was the first one doing switch flip tail slides and switch double flips. They're different. They're totally different. Henry Sanchez was a force to be reckoned with at that time, and that's where Henry, I think, like, deserves all of his flowers. Tim was super technical. I don't know if Tim Gavin ever, maybe they did, like, whatever, but Tim Gavin was so technical and, like, invented so much stuff and did so much and was, like, so stylish. But Henry was just a beast. He was a different, like, breed. He was a little bit more hardcore. Yeah. Tim Gavin was someone that I would see at these contests, and he was always just like, he was a really animated. People from Arizona are usually like very funny and animated. When we went out there, we just like went into the phone book and called them up, and like, you know, we just tied it out. Tim and Henry were both living at my mom's house during the making of Tim and Henry's. Henry was there full time. Like, he just lived there at the house with Matt Schnur. Tim Gavin convinced World Industries to fly him every single weekend with a different excuse. No, it's for this. Like, I swear I'm doing this trick. You got to fly me out there. He was trying to get adopted by my mom so he can go to school in Los Angeles.
Really?
And at one point, like, we had our moms on the phone and we were trying to get, like, adopt him. It was kind of for a school thing and skate thing, but at one point we were, like, almost going through with this and we were like, this is so weird.
Yeah. Tim Mariano.
Tim Mariano. You know, I get all the videos, like, but would it be 20 shot? I have to say Rubbish Sheep changed my life. And Jeremy Klein and all those guys, like Jeremy Klein was a huge inspiration. I get it like twisted because there's so many parts of like World in so many days. Like there was like the earlier, like middle, and so I'm trying to like whatever. But even just talking about World, getting into like day one song and like whatever, it's like I don't even, you know, want to get into that territory, but
That's an hour right there.
that's an hour.
Yeah.
I can't. That's so like, you know, and I'm biased. 101, maybe the best branding. World Industry had a lot of flavor, and Blind was a great team. And then there's two parts of Blind. Oh yeah, so you want me to say this, like Tim and Henry? This is a weird time for Blind right here, you know what I mean? Like we've lost Mark Gonzalez and Jason Lee. We're a little lost, and we're kind of searching for like what is going to be this brand. That's a tough time. And I felt really lost during this time too, because also of having such a special moment on this brand with like the owner, and the owner leaves. And so now like it's like, who are you fooling? Like, what is this? But I do think that these two guys, Tim and Henry, stepped up and established themselves. It gave us a lot of hope to go on with that brand for a little while, and like, you know, without Mark. And that was tough for us all because that hurt. Who would want to be on Blind without Mark Gonzalez?
Right.
Even when you go into like, you know, who's the best brands like 101, Blind, like World, even though those brands like in their teams like were separate, it was all the same thing for all of us. We were just a group of 13 people, you know what I mean? And like, so when we're all in like a car, like was Chico World and he wasn't, like it's almost like a girl and chocolate thing, but like you have to understand, like when it comes down to it, the pride of these brands, like it does have that, like chocolate is completely separate than girl, you know what I mean, when it comes down to it, but like in a group setting, it's all the same family. Chocolate had a lot of pride. Chocolate was a whole different beast. If you wanted to get on chocolate, like, you know, that's a lot different than getting on girl. Even though it's the same thing, it was two separate brands. Bitch. Is this a Bob shirt? Wow. Did you ever, like, you know why they did that?
Megan told me that Spike just named it randomly. Is there a different?
I don't know. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I honestly wanted to know.
Do you know who did the art for that?
Is that McKee? I loved mine. I did. World was really good with like picking up on all of our little inside jokes that we had towards each other and kind of using them into the graphics. I had big ears growing up, so all these guys would like, you know, make fun of me because my big ears. And then I ended up with the Dumbo graphic. These are interesting graphics. This is like when it first started getting a little bit graphic. Like my mom, like when she saw this one, she was like, hey, World at one point, like you're doing all these like Dumbo graphics, Disney style graphics, and then it kind of like flipped where it got like really hardcore, you know what I mean? 101, for instance, is doing the babies on the pentagrams and all this stuff. And I remember like, you know, my mom would always see all my boards, but she'd be like, start seeing these boards and being like, oh no, I'm cold, hang on. I'm getting rained on, I'm wet over here. It's raining outside, so we had to get inside. Some of the graphics that I think back in the day that bothered me the most have become my favorite nowadays.
Yeah.
And one might be like that Dumbo, you know what I mean? And because even when I was young, I was like, oh, it's just Disney and it's like this very cartoony graphic. But then like I think about how like Gabriel used to call me like big ears and all this stuff. That sticker was like on his house like door and all this like little stuff that now looking back has become my favorite.
Yeah.
And even situations like at Girl where like, you know, they're doing the Golden Girl boards. And I'm like trying to be cool with this era and I'm like, I want these cool graphics to sell in this, what is this? And then I go to the 30-year-old girl and I like laugh at that with my family. My daughter's laughing at it. Now that's become my favorite. Herschel, who did those graphics at a time, was doing thousands of face photos. I mean, we were babies, we were this, we were that. Like, I think at one point we were like, all right, enough with those. But wait, least favorite. No, I loved them. I think they were like, they're all like groundbreaking in their own ways. It's just a great time for skateboarding, and skateboard graphics is the best ever. I wish even too nowadays that, when I look back at old graphics, like they lasted for a little while and they had such a big impact and they're around for like a summer, like they like literally became a part of you and like your identity, and they don't hold that same weight. And I think some of these graphics nowadays are just as good, you just don't let them live as long. And I know it's a very consuming world, but that I feel like that hurts skateboard graphics. I did like an era where it's like these Roscops or these people, Lance, that had these, one graphic stayed with you through these like developmental years, and it's like, that's how it became your favorite board. Even in that sense too, shoes and boards, like, are they around a long enough time to be like, have this effect on your life? But I guess it does, it's different now. Even too, like a lot of these times these graphics were shirts, stickers, and wheels. You might have this board, it's like the Mobster Mariano, whatever, and it's just like, but that was a wheel, that was this, and it was a sticker, and they celebrated those graphics back then.
Right. And it wasn't always the same graphic, they would like pluck out a piece of
Yeah,
graphic.
I miss those.
Love that.
I don't know why they don't do like enough graphic skate shirts anymore.
Yeah.
Clothing, come on. Whatever.
This is kind of more of the same.
I love it. Pretty sure dyeing a lot of these shirts and coming up with a lot of these colors, like that might not seem like much to us now, but back then it was like huge. And that is like kind of the color palette of the 90s. This is an awesome color shirt. I feel that skateboarding has got like very basic. I mean, maybe it's just so faded that the stitching's like actually a different color in the collar. They were definitely onto something. Is this Cool World? Roger Rabbit. Oh yeah, when I see this graphic, it just like reminds me of a time like this movie was really popular and groundbreaking at the time. And to have this skateboard graphic was like very special. This board graphic did really well. The girls weren't really drawn like this like back in the day, so it was like the first time, and this is very like provocative, and to have it on a kid's skateboard was like something special. It just wasn't there yet. I know now it doesn't look like much, but back in the day this was like very special to have this. I remember going to like a movie with Steve Rocco, and like there was like a big cardboard cutout, like they do the movies, staging at the branding at the movie theater. We took it. I'm sure nowadays he gets like a lot of props, but like Steve Rocco, for actually like being able to see stuff back in the day and put it onto a skateboard fast and to get it out there was like the first of his kind. We were all very blessed to be around a guy that was able to do that and was fearless to do that. A lot of people weren't taking chances and the risk of being sued by these big corporations, and gave us some of our best skateboards that were like sought after today. And if it wasn't for someone as brave as him, we wouldn't have this. And so that's what I think when I see it. I mean, I'll even get into like Fresh Jive and all these brands that were like making clothing. Skate culture that inspired like rave culture, that inspired like, of where it came first. Yeah. But World, in this Bobshirt era and the fucked pants, I really do believe that influenced like the rave culture clothing. And I do feel that skateboarders have had such a strong influence in the fashion world. And Bobshirt and fuck clothing, that World era, like is responsible for a lot of that. Of the color combinations of like, whether it be these like interesting green shirts with the orange pants, and like, you've seen Rodney Mullen and a lot of that stuff.
I love Slayer shirt, remember that one?
Yeah.
Did you have that one?
I probably had everything, but see, this is the thing. I have nothing anymore.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Free, man. You're free.
It's sad. Well, like, so
This
even
stuff, you lived it. I didn't, so that's why I hold on to this stuff.
like a Gabriel Rodriguez board is like 5 Gs.
Oh, easily.
And that's just crazy to me.
Like,
That like, oh yeah, so like one point, like Gabriel, like whatever I'd seen him, he was after skateboarding, and he had a new car, and I was like, bro, how'd you get this car? And he's like, I sold some boards. Probably just joking. Like, or whatever. Like, what do you mean selling boards? You're not selling boards anymore. And it's like, I think he like sold like a board to get like a Toyota Corolla or something.
like a high guy is that's the hardest one to find.
Claudia Schiffer.
Yeah, those are good.
So I will say this, like the only boards that I ever did collect, well, I have like a couple. Anthony Van Engelen got me a board, and Mark Johnson got me a board. I think the Anthony Van Engelen is a high guy, and Mark Johnson was a David Bowie. And I just like the OGs.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
they were both like gifts, whatever. And so I do have still those two somewhere.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Bowie board.
yeah. Eric Costin has a really good one. He had one back in the day. One of my favorites is like the frames from the Van Owen bump.
Yeah.
He had a very good tray flip. Mike Mo Capaldi, at one point, the best tray was just like everything was perfect to me.
Yeah.
When I come to my best tray flip, it's not like biggest, longest, farthest, which is always going to be like what would be a Chris Jocelyn down the Davis Gap, right? Like it doesn't get bigger and farther, or like his Del Toro one that I consider that one. Jason Lee's had some really good ones just on flat ground.
Yeah.
I just watched his stereo part. And so this is at a time when I probably thought Jason Lee was like, you know, transitioning out of skateboarding. He was becoming more of an actor. And I watched that video part and I go, man, there was so much style and flavor and just how he's skating through San Francisco. And it's like how I like to see it now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It makes me really question, you know, I've had there's a lot of times in skateboarding where you're trying to be progressive and trying to do this, and you know, you lose style, you lose this, you lose like things, and you just morph it in between. And now being very old looking back on it, you know, your perception changes.
Yeah.
It's happened to me like 5 times, 6 times, if not 100 times in skateboarding.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. That happened the other day where I watched that video part and I was like, man, that was like what I like to see skateboarding. One time with Mark Johnson. Starting fully flared, pretty sweet. Everyone's going crazy, everything's all technical. And Mark has this moment where he goes, I just want to cruise. And everyone didn't understand it. And he kind of did. He was just stepping back. And Mark's one that we've all seen him get so crazy. He started just doing these like lines where he's like going down the street, just being a little bit more like, you know, at ease. He was ahead of his time on that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he saw that and he changed.
People say that about Anthony Papalardo's part in Fully Flared.
Oh yeah,
Like
so
when
you're
it
like,
came
oh
out,
yeah, so like
oh.
that was it, and now you go back and watch it and you go like, it was actually like, you know, he was hitting nice spots, like it's very original, and yeah.
But at the time, you got dogged on a little bit.
Virtual game changer.
What's this one called?
This is Plan B, virtual reality. I get by with a little help from my friends. The blind section.
Yeah.
Was it? People like it? It was a great song. Maybe like people really like that blind section in here because like they kind of just cut out a lot of the bullshit and just put the quality clips, which probably like stood out better than having a very long part. In this video, like I think a lot of us had full video parts and may have been cut down to like just come in here and like be inserted in here. This was like at a time when Mike Chernowski had a lot of power at World. Even just behind that, I think Mike Chernowski, like I definitely know he had talked to me before he passed away, and it's like he wanted to see a better video part and he was trying to get it out of it. And he was a guy that actually was capable of doing that with writers. I think we saw it firsthand, all knowing how good Rodney Mullen was. Mike Chernowski actually capturing it and putting it on film. And when we saw that, we were like, oh, this guy's like really good at this. And he did it with a lot of those guys. He brought out the best in a lot of them. Now they might say that that became a toxic thing for them, who knows? From an outsider looking in, it was great. And we did trust what Mike said. And I think Mike came in and was like, this thing seems like it's taking a really long time. Let's take the best of these guys and insert them in here. But I think he made the right decision because, like, you know, like you said, if people liked it and they saw it. Yeah, I was probably stoked. I probably didn't like it. I probably wanted to do it better. I could see like I know me, like kind of hit the floor a little bit. That was not the one I was looking for. That was my first experience in a technical trick on a 4-stair rail. Yeah, could be a first and last. But like that was at a time when you know, that World Park was just breeding. I don't even know if like video footage captures as much as that place progressed. It was all of the greats that are in there. It's like, you know, you're talking like Day One Song, Gino, everybody like in their prime going for it as hard as they could. And also too, it's like a box where it was 24/7. Socrates was just in there pumping it out. Mark McKee and Sean Cliver always used to stay in like the World Industries like art like thing, and they would stay up there painting those graphics like till like late at night. Like we would all go up and watch them do a lot of those graphics and sit there and watch them paint. It was a really great experience. I mean, also too, they were still painting them with paintbrushes, so they were sitting there like whatever. They were very like, you know, the real board. I'm pretty sure I saw that one being made, and like a lot of times, like because we were at World all the time, like, you know, we just like to go there. It was just a fun place to hang out and like dick around. We got to see a lot of it. Mark and Sean were just very open with letting people, they weren't like super private, and let people in there, let people watch. Even Mark McKee, he's very timid for these wild graphics that he puts out, but like who knows, maybe he has a dark side. One thing that I could say about even just Plan B and like these days, to me, it seemed like this huge length of like time, but it was pretty quick. Virtual reality and all these videos, like wasn't this like in a 3-year span, like all of Plan B, or was it 2 years? I mean, I'm just saying Rick Howard and Mike Carroll and them, not like everything, but
92 to 93 basically.
and so like it was 1 year, like, so you have to like imagine, which seemed like a big time, it was very fast. If you have an umbrella brand, right, and you have all these brands in here, and Plan B was at its best and probably highest and probably getting a lot of attention, there could have been some people that felt maybe World and Blind and 101 didn't get enough attention at that time. That could have been it because we were sharing all the same resources.
Right.
No hatred towards the skate part competition of skating.
Right.
It was more of just like, can we get our video made? Mike Chernowski at the time was a person that can get a video made. Videos are not easy to make. And so I have to say, Socrates at the time was doing it all by himself. Probably the most overworked, underpaid, most broke down car having guy in all of Los Angeles. I want to say, I did have this situation where I had a part for this video. And I believe that Socrates had it. And so one time I was at World and I was like, bro, where is my master tape? The big, what is it, a beta tape? The big beta tape that, like, you know, before you guys chopped it down, I had some footage. And I was just curious. Like, oh yeah, so like one of those tricks was like a frontside half cab, crooked grind to fakie, to be exact. I want to know where that's at, Sock. Mike Carroll, Embarcadero, and someone capturing him at his best. Jake Rosenberg. When I think of Plan B, I think of Mike Carroll priming out, and Mike Carroll's best Mike Carroll footage. Like, I really did like it. Pat Duffy. Game changing. So this video, any Plan B, I think about Duffy because Duffy's just like whatever, it was groundbreaking, out of this world. I mean, even just to say this, you know, I grew up in a, like, back to, let me hold the video.
Yeah, appreciate your commitment. Thank you.
Oh, I got names on here, I could have just looked at it. These were the days, like, still in these videos, Colin McKay and Danny Way had a vert section in there, where like they took street skating and they did it in the way that we wanted to see it and changed, I think, vert. And people that had nothing to do with vert, they like to watch it. I don't want to get like, take it away from the mega ramp and everything, but I like a nice, like, just like regular size ramp and people doing like lip tricks and flip tricks, and I missed this vert skating. I think this vert skating's coming back. Have you noticed that? Well, Tony Hawk's kind of like, I feel like sort of responsible for his ramp, bringing it back, and I really liked it. And I missed like in these videos where you'd have this vert section and it was still like very entertaining for street skaters. And they were like skating in jeans and shit. Colin McKay was like switch flipping in jeans. You're like in a white tee. You're like, this is dope.
Pivot to fakie, no pads. You skated vert.
Yeah, I used to skate vert. Was it a tour with like Lance Mountain was on it? Maybe Lance Mountain was skating the ramp, and so I jumped on there with them, and that was probably inspired by that. That was a good trip, actually, like when the Firm came on, like with Girl. I come from a generation where you basically had to skate ramps and street. So I grew up skating that, and I gravitated towards street, but I always kind of carried it on. I wish I would have focused or honed in on it a little bit more. It was weird because when you were young, like you weren't really these all-around skaters, kind of just focused in one area. I think I stunted myself. That's one thing about skateboarding, like I think in the 90s that like was a negative thing about skateboarding in the 90s. It was very strict and you had to kind of follow these certain rules, and if not, you were kind of outed. There was only a few people like John Cardiel and people that just really just didn't let it affect them. Like me personally, like when I met Gabriel Rodriguez growing up, like he was the best jump ramp skater, like airs, like just like flowing, and then we just like honed it in all street tech. It changed us. One thing I didn't like about the 90s, I'm having a moment myself right now just thinking about that. But Weston at that time was probably one of the best skateboarders, and I think he suffered like a knee injury. But I remember being at like Love Park with like the Firm. I mean, Firm was one of the greatest teams at one point.
Pat Brennan?
All, yeah.
Kickflip late show it?
Yeah. Yeah, he lived in, I think, in Pasadena. I was like pretty...
Did you ever skate with him?
I did a lot, yeah. Became a kickboxer, right? Sports. Yeah. Kickboxer, race car driver.
Yeah.
They were all good. Yeah. The only part of envious of Plan B would be like a Mike Chernowski that's working with these skaters, bringing out the best of them. And to know that even in here, you know, would probably be one of my first times like coming out of just a couple of tricks, which would end up being a repetitive thing to come out in my career, which I probably would have liked to shine harder in these times. So I imagine like there was some sort of hurtness of seeing some of my peers being working with great filmmakers and coming out with stuff. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. I will say it's tricky with the videos to get all of the whole team on the same page at once. And even harder back in the days when you probably didn't have as big of a group making these videos.
Yeah. This is good.
One thing that I don't like to do is smile. All happy and cheesy. A lot of people thought that Steve Rocco destroyed skateboarding. I don't know, do you view that to be the case? Like, wouldn't you say he kind of like changed it in a way and like whatever, and it's like now looking back on it, he got so much heat for all that stuff. I just remember being like situations like where we'd all be in the park and he'd be like, you know, I was trying to nollie 270 hill flip and he was like, if you make that right now, I'll give you $100. And so like I did it. And everyone's like, double or nothing, like whatever. And then like did it again. Like I think I did like 4 times in a row. And like it was like $400 and they're like, this is the worst. He's fucking giving people money and like whatever. And it was like, bro, it was just a moment and we were all kids and like it was really fun. It wasn't like as toxic as you might have like whatever you were believing or trying to pitch it in these business things. You know, I remember it was a big thing with like Powell and World and all this stuff. What was a hater in 92? Like
sometimes change is hard for the older generation, right? And
yeah.
Change comes so quickly.
I'm not gonna lie, like I was there, I was a part of an older generation where I saw the older generation of World Industries hate on day one because they were so fearful of them. It's tough.
Yeah. Did Rocco ever buy you anything crazy?
Always. Steve was the type of dude that would take us all into like the Gap and everybody would just go on a spending spree. I'm sure Steve was making a lot of money at the time, but for us, like as kids, like it was cool. He was probably making a lot of money and he shared it. Yeah. Get jet skis and follow my boat to Catalina, like, you know, it's like little kids. That was fun stuff. At that time, you know, Rocco did everything. He did that magazine. He was fully integrated where like he was making 100% of everything. And he was the only one to ever do that. But he had his own magazine, his own like factories, his own like writers, his own everything. I'm like, dude, no one's ever done it quite like him. Right. I have this poster in my garage, rotting. And so this is shot by Spike. This is me on a skateboarder cover. What do you call these things? It's a cyc wall where like, you know, it's really hard to tell. It was hollow. If you didn't do it softly and gently, the wheels would go through the wall. Not a lot of tries on this one. Lance drew this in a big poster and I have the artwork for it. He drew like me in like the Lance style. Yeah. And so it's like very meaningful. I even have my little finger right there, my signature finger. Yeah, I guess like going back to this photo is like what I'll say about Spike is like, you know, as I've like been in skateboarding for a long time, I go like, oh, I have this photo I want to take. I want to do like this thing where I'm doing a back tail, like, you know, the photo of Nodis, blah, 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 where it's like all like, you know, come to find out it's Spike. And then I go, oh, I want to do another photo where like these lights are kind of trailing, like it's chasing like whatever, and then come to find out it's Spike. Yeah. And then I realized like how great Spike was and how great all of his work was and how he changed skateboarding in so many ways. Sometimes it's hard to realize these things when you're in the mix in it. Even this day, you're like, oh, like, was this annoying for me to do? Like, was I bothered by this to go do this? And then it ends up being this beautiful thing. Oh, look, this photo right here, it's so crazy. I was doing this the other day. I had this like fake little hand, right? It was one of these little hands. And so I started doing this thing. I did it with like Mike Anderson, like grabbing the board, and then come to find out like he had shot Mark doing this, and I was like, no way. Like you can't even do a fake hand. One of the coolest ones, man. Like I think it was just like my board broke. Like maybe that was like when focusing boards like came in. Might have naturally broke, might have been focused. I was just playing around with it, and one of the coolest photos ever. Like just like that. Like I look back at that now, and I'm like, man, like you know, just lucky to be around someone who like had the eye to like shoot and capture this stuff. Wait, where do you want this signed though? Like seriously, like should I do it right here? It's kind of classy.
Artistic license.
I'm just gonna go. I love this one.
Me too.
I don't know why. I don't know why it's like one of my favorites. I think it's the simplicity of it, but like this was never really seen any crazy photos, right?
A lot of mouse footage, but that's it.
This board is in mouse?
Yeah. The one in the video is like white here.
Yeah, why would we? Isn't that weird? No, who's Andy Mueller? Andy Jenkins? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cute.
The top?
Yeah. I will say this. I did some of my best skating on these little boards and really tapered noses and tails. And just recently, I've been like questioning the size board I've been riding. I ride at 8125, but they're all just like bigger. And the other day I was like, man, I did some of my best skateboarding on these small boards, and I just wonder if like actually this is where I should be. It's hard to go back down.
It is. I went up.
It's easy to go up, it's hard to go back the other way. What a trip. Is this the original popsicle shapes of like girl? Because they look so tapered.
That's it. That's girl. Yeah. That came right from the factory.
I love it. So like the OG graphic, like my OG orange graphic, I don't know what it feels like to someone else. You might see that graphic and like not understand it, but if you are a girl rider and have had your name under that girl like symbol, it's a different feeling. And some of those OG graphics like are like the, you know, most powerful for all of us. Someone else might be like, oh, that's an interesting girl bathroom sign with your name on it. But it has like a lot more like sentimental value than what you would think. That first one, it means a lot. Even to tell you the truth, I don't know the real meaning behind girl or like how it came about, like whatever. I think I've asked the question a bunch. Do you know it?
Carol said it was like, they thought it'd be funny.
And so that's the only thing I could imagine. Like, you know, we could pull it off by using this bathroom graphic.
Yeah. And that was Jenkins and Rick. They were like, we'll just use the bathroom graphic.
Yeah. I had a Virgin Mary graphic. It was done with the 3M, you know, the black one?
Yeah.
I liked it because it was an all black board, but with the 3M reflective paint that like, if you looked at it in one way, it just looked like a black board, but hit in the right light, it like just lit up like really good. Nah. I know.
Do you have any of your blind ones?
Nah. Oh wait, so my sister has the Claudia Schiffer. I got a funny story, like girl wanted to do a remake of that Claudia Schiffer board, and they had like they wanted the original top print because there was a letter from like whatever, blah, blah, blah. I gave it to Rick, and like when you give someone at a company like your original, like you can almost guarantee you're not getting it back.
Don't say that.
Please,
I got a lot of
please, this is my sister's, like just whatever. And then they go, no, we gave that back to you. I go, no, you didn't, blah, blah, blah. So for like 100 years, every time you go into Rick's office, he has all his boards out. Like he had a collection there, but also new boards and whatever. And every time I went into his office, I'd be like, dude, where is that Claudia Schiffer board? I know it's in here. No, I gave it back to you. When you guys were doing that 30-year, Rudy's like, let me get your address. I want to send you something. And he sent me the board back. The original one that they used like for the remake. Never got a chance to tell Rick that. You've had it all along. We were laughing at the girl thing because a lot of our graphics were taken right off album covers and just like straight, like, you know, Rudy Johnson was like, love, my favorite, like whatever, just love graphics. Where I was like, man, that's an awesome graphic because it's like an album that I like. And even Tony Ferguson, like we were like going, he's like, I remember this graphic. It was like, he was at a bar and it was like a napkin or something. It was a logo on it, some crest. And he's like, I want this, like whatever. And he put it on the board. Like he was explaining that story, but those graphics back then, they were like, it came from the person. Sure. And it had, graphics had a lot of identity of the people and a lot of personality of the people. And I think that girl was the first to do that with a lot of graphics. Right. Oh yeah. I mean, great ones.
Do you like that one?
I do. I like them all. Maybe as a pro, I don't know, like after having like a lot of boards, if you lose some sort of, I think we've lost respect for graphics and like art. It's just a crank out, like whatever. And I just feel that even like me back in the day, it's like I've probably like, you know, took it for granted and just, I don't know. Sorry, I'm having a moment.
Will you sign that top graphic for me?
You want on the top?
Will you get this? Yeah, on the drip side for sure.
Wait, right here, right?
Yeah. What about a gamma? Can I get a gamma?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. If there were to be a Guy Mariano Girl Skateboards remake today, which one would you want to see?
Tony Larson chair.
Tony Larson chair?
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the shape of this board, is this pretty, like, early Girl? Like, could
It's
be...
96.
That's later than, like, you know. I mean, was Girl 1993?
93. Yeah.
What 93? Like, early 93?
October.
Oh, so late 93.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Clean. When I was young, before, I had a lot of Eames like stuff, you know what I mean? I had an Eames chair and all this stuff. This is like sophisticated Girl, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Art dump. Tony Larson was great. I love these.
Yeah. And you don't have this one either.
I don't have them.
Unbelievable.
None.
Jeez. You're not a material person.
This looks like a more, a girl board that I used to ride. I was a G28. There's a GM on there. You know, even the remake of the Claudio Schiffer, like, it did mean a lot. Like, it was a good board. Like, I like to see it. A ripoff that I did, like, you know, which, like, it holds a special place in my heart. I grew up on a block with a key grip. One of my friends' dad was a key grip on Jaws. It was just a big thing for us when we were kids. But I did, like, a remake of the Jaws board, like, with the girl on there.
I remember that. What did you think of the boxer one? I love that.
I loved it. The colors on that one are beautiful.
Negative space.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like that thing could have been a shirt, could have been wheels, like whatever. That's what I liked about those graphics back then. Jesus Christ. That's so small.
Yeah.
What was he doing? Which one?
So she'll flip over the tail.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, could I say it like this? Like, I have 2 cents on chocolate. Like, you know, this is like, goes back to like Gabe. Chocolate had a lot of pride. And like, you know, I could say like it was all big one happy family, but like chocolate was different than Girl. Skateboarding wasn't as diversified as it was like back in the day. And so people like Gabe and Paulo and Chico are those the guys that were getting shoes and getting pro and this and that. They weren't the people that were focused on. You know, even like Gabriel, he had a lot of pride for just like Hispanic and Latino. Chocolate did stand for that. It was this brand that took on a lot of people that weren't getting attention. I would consider Gino. Gino was like white chocolate. He had so much flavor, they were like, fuck it, let him on. Chico and Gabe and a lot of those guys like Keenan, they held those like standards pretty high, and like I did respect that about that brand. Skateboarding is so much different today, it wouldn't seem like it was like that back in the day, but it was. Paco, like it was just because of Gabe. All those guys hold a special part. None over more like whatever, like Chico, all Keenan. Gino. Fucking chocolate. I like Chocolate's graphics. I liked all their logos too, like their scripts. Like, I don't know why, it's like I'm having a flashback of back in the day. We'd all wear chocolate stuff. Like the chocolate script clothing and hoodies and everything. Those are times that I definitely miss in like skateboarding, is that Girl and Chocolate, like we all had so much pride in those brands that like we wore it and repped it like so religiously. When new gear would drop, no problem, we'd all show up to the same spot with all the same t-shirts and hoodies. And not have a problem with it. Like, that was a great time for me. Oh, yeah. I always like wanted one of those. I always like, you know, I always thought they would, can't get one, but like, you know.
You want one?
No, I'm just saying, like, you know, it was like, those things were awesome.
Well, there is this. I mean, you almost got one.
Oh, yeah.
That's Hecox.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, so I do have one. This is a good time for me. After Mouse, this is my favorite frontside heel flip. This is shot by Dimitri.
Yeah, why don't you film any of this stuff?
I don't know.
Okay.
But like that should have been filmed. This is a good frontside heel. This is like a spot in like El Segundo, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, my friend Matt Naylor shot this photo. Dang, I forgot that this existed right here.
Dude, this is such a good interview.
No, this is a good one. Like, had people been skating Van Owen like right
I
here?
don't know.
Oh, my friend Jed Walters kickflipped this before
Jay
me.
Walters.
I do not remember this. This is a fakie tray over Adams. This guy was good.
Yeah, just take that.
Both of them? I had just one. You know, I had some of these at my mom's house.
Yeah.
They crumble. And so this shoe will crumble. I don't want to handle it too much. This is you know, what I see when I like hold this, it just reminds me of like how much of an influence Kareem Campbell had in my life. It's interesting because there's like so many stages of Kareem Campbell. It was like Venice Kareem, right?
Yeah.
And then Kareem moved to New York for like a long time and came back and was like skating in like Jordans and shit like that. Kareem came back into World and they basically gave him like the keys. They started Action, just like whatever. This is like an Air Max like 97 like colorway right here. I will say this is like, you know, for back in the day, the rubber toe was ahead of its time. It was good and it didn't get messed up.
Yeah.
This shoe functioned like pretty good.
Yeah.
And I will say this, out of all the actions, it did bend. It probably doesn't seem like it now, but it bended better than like most of the other ones.
Right.
It functioned better. I love this color. I mean, this color, like, too, like, was just all of my colors in the 90s. Like, it's just like what this shoe actually looks really good. It kind of looks like the Tiara, too, a little bit. Kareem was very hands-on, like, and even me and Gina would always be just for hours inside of his office while he's just sitting there smoking, just going through shoes and just like picking them out. We were able to go in and just like pick them, you know what I mean? And so like this is one we worked off of. I believed it was special. I just didn't. I'm curious of. I think I don't know what like other people think of like brands, like whatever. You know what I mean? Man, I swear, like looking at this shoe now, I'm probably more proud of this shoe like now than I was even back then because it's such a great looking shoe.
Yeah.
And even like little things like this was a big deal to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like just to have my name, like, and you know, it's interesting. This is my signature, but I did do my G's different back then.
And it's on the heel too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You wore a lot of these, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many pairs?
But I think that too, like this was like the first like shoe that like you said, I was skating in like the Air Tiaras and like all like different stuff like that like it was a skate shoe that actually reflected like what I was looking and feeling like at the time. That's why I liked it so much. Even too, like the one that was based off the Aries, like whatever, it's like that one was a great design shoe. Not the best skating shoe, but design wise, like it was a good looking shoe.
The runner toe made it hard to skate in.
Oh, they're super difficult.
Yeah.
This shoe did pretty good, and I was paid pretty well from it. And so, like, I was, like, taken care of. Every time I had a moment in skateboarding's pretty, like, you know, like, on the downside of it. It's had so many, like, ups and downs. I don't even want to talk about that stuff. It sounds like some business-wise. I've missed the booms.
Yeah.
I've missed them.
The KCKs, I mean, that was Duff's, but did you ride those?
I loved the KCKs, and I was, like, bummed that I never, like, really got to skate them, but it was a great-looking shoe. But even the KCK, like that,
You skated them in
it was the Reebok. No, but a KCK was a Reebok, like, you know what I mean?
the Workout Plus or whatever. But you had the KCKs in Mouse.
Did I?
Yeah, Chafee, you did that line.
Oh yeah, frontside half cab nose grind. Like probably like one pair, like yeah, like but like that shoe's a good looking shoe. I'm sorry, that's so good looking. Bro, I have to say like I'm just having flashbacks, like Kareem Campbell was the hugest influence. Even just fashion wise, like you know what I mean? It's just who he was like as a person. Like I will say this, even to like action, even probably for myself and Gino and Kareem, like it's not that these guys were like dressing up to go out and skate, like that's who they were off the board. And so that's why I translate. It's like even Kareem, when I look at like this footage of him, I'm like, it's not like he was dressing up like that. It's like that's how he looked off the board, and that's when he just went and skated. There was no separation. Some people you see them trying hard to like apply this fashion in some way into a clip or something.
Yeah.
Just wasn't forced, you know what I mean? It was very organic.
Do you have a favorite Kareem clip?
I have a lot. The ghetto bird is like really good. Every time it's like funny, it like comes up and then they show that clip and I'm like, I've actually like probably never seen like one come around that clean. Oh yeah, not that one, but the one on the bank where he comes, it's a 360. He like comes around and it's just like, bro, I don't know if I've seen it like yanked like that good. I hold that one close to my heart. I like a switch hard.
When was the last time you did one?
A while ago. I like a switch hard because I can't do the regular. It's almost like that same thing. I've done them. They're just not pretty.
Yeah.
Did Kareem do regular hard flips? Yeah. Dang. Oh, this is special, man.
The photo, yeah.
Wait, I have a photo in this?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, really?
Yeah. Clearly riding a girl board and wearing a menace shirt.
Yes. I will say this, like even at this time, like in not that there was anything bad, but I think there was like some separation of me just not skating as much, and I was just hanging out a lot with like Fabian and Billy and Joey and all these like menace guys. I was really proud of them when they all got their brand together and like launched it and was just having such a big success, because I think it was like we all come from like Los Angeles of supporting each other, even like Joey, Fabian, all those guys, like those guys were around like during like the Powell days, you know what I mean? Like they were like the next step. At this time is when they finally got established and had their own brand, and Kareem was like helping them with it, and it kind of brought us all together. Menace and Girl were actually like really tight and skated together all the time. I loved it at the time. I thought it was like the best thing. Even just to touch on like the Menace thing is I think that like it was a great time in skateboarding where like I think everybody was coming of age in some way. Music and fashion and skateboarding were all intertwining. All these things take from skateboarding so much. Skateboarding's always been this like heavily rotated, I don't know, we go through trends and things so fast. People really have an eye on skateboarding to see where trends are gonna go. You know, as you say all those names, I do realize that even the success I've had on any film in skateboarding is due to those names that you mentioned. And I don't think that I would be able to work with Spike if it wasn't for Stacy. And I don't think I would have been able to work with like, you know, Mesa if it wasn't for Spike. And so I think they all like play a hand in each other, even down to Ty. Nothing will compare to like me and Gabriel just natural skating. That's as pure as it gets. Me, Gabriel, and Rudy used to like film ourselves like whatever during the day, watch the tapes at night, and then record over them the next day. That's all. We just didn't have tapes. But like, I wish that we had those. They were like really good tapes. Yeah. But I'm sure a lot of people did that. Yeah, So Mouse is very like, I would think I'm at my like, my purest and most organic and prime of skateboarding with the filmer. Pretty sweet and fully flared. They have a big like, it's a lot of good skateboarding for me, but it's about like the comeback. And so that's like it's a different feeling. And I'm proud of that. But when I look at that, I don't like see myself as in like, you know, my prime youth of skateboarding. I'm like, man, that's like, you know, someone, it was personal. The iPhone, like I really do like, it's a direct from me to you that's intertwined with social media, which is actually has like a negative like, you know, thing, I think. A little bit towards me just because of being older and having a kid and having so much research on social media and just how bad it is, it does have that like negative aspect of me, or just like towards me. You start off filming yourself and you end up filming yourself, like, you know, okay. But there is something like to be said about that, and I think that's taking that back to its purest form, but it's also like too, it's also mixed up in a weird marketing right now where it's like whatever, like that's just the bad part of it. You believe that you're like this like magnificent skater and these people have just captured it, and it's actually what these people have done with you. And I've seen it now just because like even too, it's like I could see the best skateboarder in the world, and without the right like person that's actually like putting that out in the right way, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. It's hard to understand as a kid, as an athlete, whatever. I'm probably getting a little too deep. Savior. Switch hard flip. He's the Scorsese of girl films. Yeah, he was ahead of his time, man. So Mesa's just always so calm. These video things could be the most stressful things in the world, and he's never lost his cool during all of it. Aaron Mesa did a good job of capturing the brotherhood inside of that. Yeah. I never cared about that like as much in those times. I was just cared about like, you know, progressing and making good skate videos, tricks, and this and this. And we actually did have someone on the inside with somewhat of a brain to try to capture that stuff and realize on this trip, like this was the most important stuff. I was thinking about Rick the other day, and I was thinking that if Rick Howard like sacrificed a little bit of his career for all of us, he's had to like maintain that plant in a business and had to have been the skateboarder over there overseeing all that because someone had to be that person, and it was him. And I think that like he like took a little bit of his career for that. He's had a great career and like whatever, but like, you know, I mean, me and Gino just have so much history. It's just Survivor. What do you want me to say? 360 flip? Tray flip. The best. Eric was the best ever since like even before he was discovered. I always say like the best Costin years were like when he hooked up with McCrank. I thought McCrank really pushed Costin. Minnick, Motti, Costin. Rick McCrank took Costin to the Costinator level, I think. I mean, Rick McCrank, like, too, like, in that, like, he was Niger in that generation. For us, like, when he was unstoppable in all those contests, he was, like, doing all the best rails. Like, it was, like, street was nothing. Antonio would be the closest version of what I think, like, a modern-day Mark Gonzalez is. And that's, like, such a stretch for, like, so many people. But I guess you would have to see it in real life because just on video, you wouldn't know. But I believe that people are going to see it this year. Next year? Maybe they won't, and I don't know, maybe we always have these feelings about certain people, you know? But actually, like, just in skateboarding, I hate to say this, but he is truly, like, something special. I just don't think that they've seen it yet. That's exciting. One time we saw, like, the Palace dudes, and they were like, he's like you, but strong, with strength, pop, and better. It's not trained, it's not practiced, it's just in there.
What's that video called?
This is Mouse. Yeah, everyone thought they were ACGs, the Nike Terras. Oh wait, it's a nose grind, it's the Kenter, switchback so any nose grind to nose grind. Yeah, around these times where we all started getting into like buying like a lot of Nike and like Polo and all this stuff, it trickled into our skating. Fashion was kind of trickling in there a little bit. I don't know, I saw other people doing it at those times, but like a lot of people were skating in like random shoes. Let's go into Mouse. Was like there were a bunch of shoe companies at the time. Like now I'm trying to think about this. Is this just Vans? Etnies.
Yeah. Were you getting free shoes from anybody during Mouse?
In Mouse, I could have been getting shoes at one point from Vans. Could I have been getting shoes? I was wearing Mike Carroll's Vans shoes in here. I don't know if I was getting those just straight from Carroll maybe, or like from some inside source, but I don't even know if I'm getting shoes from at skate shops. I don't know where I was getting my shoes right here. I was a vegan at that time.
That was so random to see you wearing cheap shoes.
I was doing a lot of technical skating and I liked the vulcanized sole, which at the time wasn't really popular. And so it was hard to get. That's why I like skated in those cheap shoes. If I were to say something, I think that I was like probably maybe coming into my own as a skateboarder and really realizing what functioned better for me at the time besides what was skateboarding was offering. And so I think in some of these clips, like I was wearing shorts, like a lot of cut-off shorts, but like those were like an elastic waist short with vulcanized shoes that just like functioned better. And so even if it was like a Nike Air Max, maybe that person felt comfort in that shoe. And I have to say, skate shoes were not what they were today. Airwalks, they were stiff shoes. Horrible shoes to skate in. Etnies, like the first ones, I like the half cap. And so even half caps are different. Like those things like were so crazy back then. Shredded. You know who was a major like shoe influence on me? Sal Barbier. So I think that like one time I was in San Diego, this was probably around the Plan B days, and I went to Sal's like closet. He had all these Pumas and Adidas and all these shoes, and I was like, whoa, these are like sick. Like you ever skate in these? And he's like, no, these are my chill shoes. I'm like, wait, what? There's like different shoes to chill in. I liked Eric's shoes. Eric's first shoe, I don't think, no, I have one photo in them. I'm grinding up a up rail, Lance Mountain shot it. I'm wearing like it's all baby blue. That shoe seemed to be at the time like the best functioning skate shoe.
That was the first skate shoe air pocket, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was cute.
It didn't do anything. It's just a little like notch on the side.
It was huge. We were all like just crazy sneakerheads, every single Nike, but I watched Eric draw that shoe in his living room 100% from scratch.
Really?
And that was a great design. It was like, you know, probably had a lot of influence from Nike and other shoes out there. Young skaters were definitely taking influence from other brands and bringing it into skate. This ain't fucking about Eric Costa. I haven't watched it for a bit. I mean, I've watched like little clips of it. At the 30 year, I was able to like watch some of the skits and stuff. I wish I would have participated in the skits a little bit more. Not that I was fearful, but like never thought I was a really good actor and like whatever, but they're just so good. And they're like such big things. Like for me now, I just wish that like my kid could see me in these little skits.
Do you have a favorite skit, finger or chocolate?
Brothers from Different Mothers was like really good. It was like, what was the girl's name?
Candy Love or something?
Yeah, like whatever, but like she was just some random girl that like was, I think was like passing by. She wasn't like a hired actress. Like it just the way it came together was like pretty funny. Eric Costin's Charlie Chaplin was like really good. Like when at a time like he didn't practice for that, whatever, he just randomly did that. Ended up being like really good. You know, probably that last one, that pop shove it crook. Like that was a really hard trick for me to do. I think it wasn't like, you know, it's like when I finally got into it, it just was the one that went and stuck. That beginning part of like figuring that out was like tough for me. I think that's why we used it at the end. We were like, wow, this is like, that was a really hard ledge trick. A lot of people were like, why didn't you use the shove it nose grind? I think we chose this one because it was like more of my skating and more of what I thought was difficult at the time. But even like with the beneficial clip, I think that this one was just like, it was just off the floor. There was a lot of different elements, like whatever. It was just like a regular ledge, a hard trick on just a regular ledge. That was just like, you know, just a random day skating where I didn't set out and try that trick a lot. That's probably why they were over there. And it was probably one of those random things that it ended up. But yeah, like filmed through the fence like that, like we would have never tried to do that back in the day for a good trick. We would have been up there fish. So that was just a random day that I tried that. It just popped out of nowhere. I think I just like kind of got lucky. Those were the days when I used to land tricks like pretty fast, you know, randomly. Was it a fakie flip? Did Tony have the fakie flip too? Tony
had to switch shove a heel.
Oh yeah, like I switched shove a heel and Tony did it. And then like I think at one point like in the editing room they're like, bro, like you got a pretty good part. Like can you just leave out your shove a heel so Tony can get this? And I was like, no, I did it first. Not in a bad way, but I was like, bro, I did it first. This is like not in a bad way. Now looking back on it, like what an asshole.
I interviewed Tony and he talked about that. He didn't care at all.
No,
but he was
no one cares because at that time, like as a skater, you're like, bro, I did this trick. It's going in the video.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter that the other guy did it. There must have been like air maze in the middle. Like would one of these guys just not put this video like clip in? And probably when it came to me, they were probably like, bro, you seem good. You could do without this. But I needed that. But I think there's something like to say about that is that like regardless of whatever you think a trick is to you, it's like it's all personal. Royal Flush. Game changer, man. When those guys came out, Keenan and Gino together were just the best. The La Brea line. He loved those like ledges. Cruising down there was like not an easy spot to skate. So is it Gino's Nollie 270 tail? Is that it right there? I mean, God, groundbreaking. That was a great time for like growing chocolate, bringing like that East Coast flavor onto the brand. It was just rad that Keenan and Gino both moved here and we're just like in the mix. Really special times. Yeah, do I turn around then I like push and switch my stance?
Yeah.
You know, I think that thing just like, it happened just randomly. because it is a weird thing to do, turn around and then turn your stance. It was a beautiful oops. I even just recently thought of something like of actually like trying to do that just to like honor it. But that's one of those things that it was a beautiful oops, and like you just can't make that stuff up. I like when things happen like that, naturally happen on camera and like whatever. It's not like I have a bunch of other tries where I was doing that and it didn't work out, you know what I mean? I did. I do like 20 shot because like it was everybody in the mix and it was a big moment for all of them. You know, it's so crazy because I have so many memories of those times. Like, and a big one is that Eric Papecki, like he was so good at that time and they cut his part. Around the time I was filming Mouse, I think Papecki had a similar part. It's like length, tricks, like whatever, that like somehow just got cut to nothing. Even like a lot of these skaters, man, like a lot of their footage has been cut to fit these little parts. So I don't know if everybody got their props in all those videos that they could have, like Maurice. When I think about those videos, with all the great stuff, I sometimes could too also, all the misses. Wait, what, like go back into the trilogy? I have to go to like that Gino part is the gnarliest part like ever. We talking about like the one where he cab flips at the end on Burl? Like I love that part.
No, that's Snuff.
Snuff, I like that part. Yeah, forgive me because I'm like blending them all together.
I mean, Rick asked if Keenan was a trilogy. It's like way off. So, on camera.
Yeah, see, it's like tough. I have had the opportunity of missing out on a lot of videos. And so I do know what that feels like. I think for Mouse was like just a perfect scenario of me having missed out on enough stuff to want to be a part of this one. You know, when you have a big team like Girl and Chocolate and like to get everyone, I don't want to say Girl and Chocolate, but Girl, to get everyone all at the same page at the same time, not knowing what we know now about making these videos. Mouse, I had a very good connection with Tim Dowling, the filmer. We were like really good friends and he was a really good skater. That was the perfect combination of us two just skating together naturally and then pulling out a camera and filming. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to find. That part is based off a filmer and skater bond. And not that other ones don't, like because it definitely did with Ty. It was definitely more natural. Mouse had to have been my prime of my skateboarding caught on video. And I think that my prime could have been maybe after that. A chocolate in between chocolate tour, maybe, yeah, right? Because what I think is like the best times at Girl Skateboards was, yeah, right. There's crazy special times all over the place, but as a brand itself, putting out product and videos and capturing everybody all at once, I don't think there was a better time. And I wish I could have been part of that one. That was Fabian's complete actual setup. I don't think I broke my board. I think I just used his board because I wanted it. There was a thing going around like at that point, Menace was making some pretty good shapes. Even during that time, like Eric Austin, I don't know if this clip ever came out, but he nollie heel flip nose wheelie to table. He would have to do it on a Menace board. It was just like a wheelbase concave type thing. I was like, let me just see Fabian's board. Also why I believe that clip ended, like it ended up in the credits, because it was that moment where Tim, who was kind of fading out on skateboarding a little bit, grinds the rail. I want to get his back and like happens. And then Fabian's there and it kind of showed that group thing, like where all of us back in the day, we never really cared about stuff like that. But Mesa probably having the, I don't know, to make it a vibe, kept it all together like that. And I'm glad that we made that choice.
Diane says, baby, you ain't missing nothing. Jackie say, oh yeah, life goes on long after the thrill of living is gone. Oh yeah, they say life goes on long after the thrill of living is gone.
I remember one time I got a check. I was out doing a lot of graffiti at the time, and I got a check from a girl, and it was like, you know where it says 4? Big gamma throw-ups. It's not for skateboarding because he knows that I'm just out like, you know, fucking around doing graffiti, just like whatever.
This is gonna be like 1.5 hour, 2 hour interview.
Oh my god!
Bye bye. Enjoy your life.